This video is gonna talk about the transformation of my horse Guapo, and you will see how he looked before, how he looks now. The topic will be the development of the top line, and I'll share with you some secrets and information that might surprise you about how I did that. So let's have a seat and let's get started. So here we have a little look at my beautiful Guapo. At that time, we called him Guapito. Um, you can see he is young here. He doesn't have a lot of development, and he really doesn't look like a lot. Actually, I remember a girl saying, "Oh, I'm not sure if this horse can be developed the way how he is." You see his shoulders are poking out, no top line. He is overbuilt. He doesn't come in with like a whole lot of wonderful conformation. And developing especially horses like that, I think is really, really exciting because you can see what equitation can do for the horse, right? You see here, look at his chest. You can see it's really narrow. If you look on the shoulders, the shoulder blades are sticking out. He doesn't have a well-developed neck. He's a gelding. You look at the hindquarters, and they were not developed. So there was a lot to get going with and a lot to start with. I love that he looks very awake, especially in this picture. And let's have a look how this looked like when we started writing. So I had prepared him on the ground. I did work bitless. You can see I was using like the lucky wheel instead, and I was using a cover song. I've done lateral movements as I used to do them before. I did use a pole. I did pole work, horsemanship, like natural horsemanship. And here you can see I would bend him, and I did all the mistakes, that we riders do, and that I can now share with you to learn from. So just looking at that picture, we can see how the base of the neck is bent, and that's something I really would take a lot of care now to make sure to stabilize the base of the neck. As I will share with you a little bit later in the video, this is very crucial for the development of the horse. Here we can see the croup, how there is no muscles. I'm doing a shoulder in here. You can see I have his head fairly low. It's something I really wouldn't do now anymore. There you can see the writing, and I can see how a lot of writers would get like excited about this picture, thinking like this would be a good development. But my view on it now is I have a very stretched out knee, long um, leg, and a very low pole. So you see, I did some pole work. Um, Having the nose low will very, very often lead to behind the vertical. I observe this all the time now, and I think only when we take really good attention of keeping the horse's pole highest part of the horse, we will achieve to have the nose line in front of the vertical, what is an absolute important detail to look at. So here we have the nose line in front, but the pole is not the highest part. The hind leg is just stretched forward, and I create a lot of tension on the horse's back, as you can see here. A big rounding of the back. So what Peter was telling me that maybe something was off. This is really the first weeks of writing, so we were just starting here. Let's fast forward. We're in 2020, and he has developed. Still, you can see the gap on his neck. Um, picture is not ideal because his hind leg is kind of out, but you can still see that there's not a whole lot of muscles on his croup. And I'm still working him bitless, and I'm still working him in a low hat position. So this is before I learned what I know now, and I'm still learning, but I want to share with you this part of information. One piece of information that's really important when you learn about the horse's anatomy is that the horses do not have a collarbone. That being said, the horse's chest, the trunk, is hanging in the front legs, just with the sling muscle and other muscle structures. So in order for the horse to release stress on the front legs, he will need to engage this muscle, strengthen his muscle, so he can lift up his withers, his chest. Yeah. A lot of people talk about lifting up the back, and I see even people saying in videos, if you scratch your horse here, or if you scratch your horse here, the horse will round back. Yes, it will. But this movement is not appropriate for riding. When the horses lift the back is when they poop or when they buck. Now, when you want to ride a horse, my horses usually they stop and take a rest to poop, because then they will lift up the back and you will feel how this will bring the horse to the front legs. You do not need that for riding. For riding, you need to shift the weight to the hind legs. Therefore, he does not need to lift up the back. He needs to lift up the chest. So the withers, and this is actually measurable. This is not like something somebody's just made up. Like, you can measure and you can feel it when you ride, but you can measure from the ground that with the proper work, the horse will rise on the withers and lower a little bit the hip. Yeah, so he'll do this, and ideally in movement. Both naturally are still in balance. From foals, we can learn how horses move in balance, how they move with a lifted chest trunk, with the lifted withers. So when we're looking at this little guy here, you can see that he has a fairly high head. He doesn't look anxious, he's just up. And I know dressage riders, they would not like that his underneck pushes out, but it's a natural thing that horses do when they're lifted up. For me, it was really changing my way how I look at horses that actually helped me to develop my horse Guapito, to get him out of a certain form that I was following that wasn't adequate for him. So this is 2022, maybe beginning of 23, and we went with a lot of mobilization, lifting up the head that will give him freedom in the shoulder, that will unlock his hip so that we can get his croup, his hip, his knees to bend and work, that will allow him to lift up the trunk. And you can see here some start of lifting, some start of more flexibility in his movement. Now this is still a while ago. There you can see how much trouble I was having in the flexions, how tight his croup area was, his lower neck. So we really had to work a lot, and we're still in the process. You can see the canter, and I'll have a canter from now. And I still would, now looking at it, bring his head higher. I was still too low, too heavy on the shoulder. If you look at it closely, Here you can see the croup is not rounding in the rein back how it's supposed to. Though development there, muscles are better. And you can still hear seeing how I'm not using correctly the outside rein, but there is change. Now, changing the movement patterns in a horse and the muscle structure does take time, but it's possible. Now, here is a more recent video where you can see him being able to move more slow with more control, with the lifted chest, and how mobility, flexibility, and strength have come to him. He has really changed, and we're still in the process. So this really starts to come up. There's no gap anymore. This takes a long process to build up the top line, to build up the muscles, and it will never be possible if we don't have worked this part. A lot of people when riding, they think of forcing the horse into a certain head position with the thought that when they do that, the horse will build up a top line. But what happens is that the horses cramp a lot the under neck instead of really starting to build up the top line, because that can only come from the behind. We always need to ride the horses from the behind, but it doesn't mean that we want the horse to stretch long forward. We want them to start to bend. And when they start to bend, the sling muscles will help the horse to lift up the chest, what will then cause the horse to arch the neck, always at the last. Yes, even you might almost not want to recognize this is Guapo, then Guapito, and I really love to see what equitation could do for him, and love to hear what equitation can do for your horse. So if you like the video, I'd be super thankful if you leave me a comment, hit the like and subscribe button, and stay tuned for more videos on horse development, becoming a better rider, and how to find balance, peace, strength, and suppleness with our horses. Enjoy your ride!